Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. This is Iron Torch 20, and we are starting off 16-bit winter with a highly underrated game from a pretty established franchise, if you ask me, and that's going to be Super Adventure Island 2 for the Super Nintendo. And for the most part, the Adventure Island series were pretty much left-to-right platformers, and you had a few gimmicks mixed up in there with weapons, with dinosaur buddies, and all sorts of various things like that. But either way, this is actually the sequel to the first Super Adventure Island, which was for Super Nintendo, and actually one of the first games released for the Super Nintendo. And pretty solid game, if you ask me, at least. I mean, it still follows the left-to-right platformer, and you have a limited amount of time and all that. But either way, this one starts off with a lot more story than the first one did. But then again, it was kind of an adaptation from arcade-style games where, well, I mean, the first Adventure Island for NES was kind of an adaptation for an arcade-style platformer, which then led to it having a few problems, but at the end of the day, still a decent game. But if you're looking for a better game on the NES, play 2 and 3. And then as far as there actually was an Adventure Island 4, which followed more of an open-ended Metroidvania-style game. But that one never came out in the US because I think it was released in like 1993 or 1994. And I also did hear from somewhere that Japan kind of did that with some of their games, and that was make them kind of like at the end of the other console's shelf life. I don't really know how that goes though. But anyway, this does follow up the plot to Super Adventure Island 1 where, I mean, or the Dark Cloak, I think that was his name, ends up freezing Tina, and then Higgins has to beat the hell out of her and break the spell. Or beat the hell out of him and break the spell. And this time they have a honeymoon, and they end up getting washed away on islands, and this time it turns out that the king of Waku Waku ends up falling in love with Tina and ends up marrying her. Of course, that was pretty quick. But then, that's just kind of how these games go. I mean, they're kind of comical, and they're also a lot of fun to play. But then it turns out that... well, actually, that's a really big bird. Well, then again, we are going to have to fight that thing at the end, spoiler alert. But yeah, I mean, the premises with this game is that, unlike the previous Adventure Island games, which are mostly left-to-right platformers, as I've said before, you're actually going around different islands and completing different tasks and getting a lot of items, so it does play a lot more like Zelda 2 or any of those open-ended adventure games. But yeah, this plot has taken a while, so I mean, that's just a lot of stuff that I had to say in order to, I guess, fill the time while we're here. And I probably should clarify something I said during the last part of Nightmare on Elm Street, and it's not that I didn't like Let's Playing as to one of the reasons I would have stopped had I gotten into a different program, but it just had more to do with the time factor. I mean, that was really about it. But anyway, now that we're at the title screen, we end up getting our options, and of course you have different save files, and of course I have my practice files. So let's just go ahead and start a new game, and let's get this rolling. Controls are pretty basic. You just move left and right, and then you can also dash if you hold the Y button, which is going to be pretty useful for making a lot of tricky jumps. But first, let's talk to the king. I also like how Higgins nods his head every time nobody's saying anything. But either way, it's just the king kind of explaining that there are going to be different islands, and instead of having one large continent just broken up into different islands, and we do have to go to these different islands. And then, yeah, if you end up getting stuck, you can tell or you can talk to the king, just like know where to go and know which place you're looking for. So I mean, this game does do a pretty good job with making sure you don't get too confused. And we get some free money, so that's always good. And in case you need another hint, you can actually go to the inn, and then you end up dreaming about Tina, and then she gives you a hint, which is actually really useful later on. Now, of course, I have 100 coins, so we're just gonna bypass that now. I think I might show those off in the extra video, but I don't know, we'll just have to see about that. But anyway, exit this room and you get yourself the world map. And for the purposes of, and I mean making sure that you don't get too confused, the game does get sectioned off by these gates. And I'm just showing off the world map now just to see what we're working with here. But like I said before, you do get these gates that you do have to unlock by beating previous islands. So I'll just go ahead and show that off right now. Yeah, we need a light stone in order to unlock this gate. And this is basically designed to keep you from going to the places that are too dangerous early on. Because, of course, this is one of those games where you do start off very weak and really not worth your time to go up there to those bigger islands and then get yourself killed early on. And just in case you need it, here's a hot spring full health recovery. And much like Zelda 2, you are going to get random encounters on the world map. So I'll just show off one of those now. And for this first part, it's actually just easier just to run away from everything. So let's just get over to Poka Poka Island and get this started. And then we get the, I guess the action screen, and what this is just a basic stage. Red potions will fill up your life, and green potions fill up your magic. And then, of course, since we don't have any weapons, we're gonna have to punch things in the face, just because we can. And with these blocks, whenever you see them, we're gonna need a shovel, and we're gonna get that a little bit later. And after punching Tails in the face, let's just go ahead and move on here. And then you can also read these stones for extra hints, which are going to be pretty helpful for the most part. And like I said before, this game is pretty good with not confusing you. And we're going to need to do something else in order to do something about that water. And whenever you see a stone like this you can pass through, there's a switch that you can get in order to, or you can activate in order to make sure those things are solid. And here it is right now. And just another hint. And the enemies will respawn whenever you go to a different door, so that's just something to know. And Waku Waku is where we started from, and Fwa Fwa is actually where we're going to go to finish the game. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here. And then that means that the blocks are going to be activated just as long as you activate the switch. There are going to be times where we're going to have to deactivate switches to get rid of the... or in order to get rid of the blocks. But I mean, that's just something we'll delve deeper into as this game goes on. But really, all we're doing is just punching enemies just because we can. We are going to get swords and armor and also shields later on in order to improve our chances of survival. And here's one of them, the silver sword. So just to equip weapons, you get an explanation as to what these do. In most stages, you are going to be using different swords in order to kill enemies quicker, or even, let's see, what else? And in order to break certain objects that you need to break in order to advance. But yeah, I mean, this is just your basic left to right. I mean, there are a lot of elements of platforming, and there's also a lot of elements of exploration, which is one thing that does make this game particularly fun. I also like the overall goofiness of this game. I mean, the first Super Adventure Island game did a really good job with that too. So, I mean, that's just things that make this game a little bit more fun. And one interesting thing about this is that some of the islands are interconnected, and you are going to have to press those switches from the other side in order to, use them. I mean, they're not really warps per se, but they're more or less shortcuts. And it does save some time on a lot of backtracking. Because of the way this game is set up, there is going to be a lot of backtracking. So, I mean, that's just something to know. And now that we broke the rock, let's just go ahead and go up here. And now we can get this treasure. And that's going to be a life bottle, and that's always good for extending your health. Because in this game you do only get one life, but you do get unlimited continues, and you can save whenever you want, so that's always good. But now that we got that done, let's just go ahead and go for a swim here. We are actually going to be able to get other armors that will make swimming faster. But we gotta get washed up first. That's all like this little animation sequence. Although you never knew Higgins could hold his breath for that long. And yeah, just gotta avoid these stupid fish. And also, yeah, see, this one's one other one that we are going to have to backtrack to get. And the moon switch actually doesn't show up until much later. And just with these trampolines, just bounce on them 3 times. No big deal. And in this game, you are going to be getting stronger as the game goes on, so you can get abilities like the down stab and the up stab, just to make dealing with enemies easier. And there are also certain blocks that can only be broken with those abilities. So, I mean, that's just one of the aspects of backtracking that we're going to have to do. And then now just gotta make jumps, no big deal here. And fortunately the controls are pretty tight in this game, so you don't really have to worry about screwing up, and at least there are no instant death hazards too. I mean, that's just something we don't have to worry about. And here's an example of a instance where we have to deactivate a switch in order to access something. So that's just something to know. And also, in different instances, we are actually at the end of the game, we're gonna have to go in here in order to access the final area. So I mean, that's just something worth knowing now. Just not to lose sight of your goal, which is of course an important thing with life itself. Anyway, now that we're here, all we gotta do is just kill some enemies, and then also gotta make some tricky jumps. And one other special ability we're going to need is the ability to push rocks. And we are going to learn that pretty soon, actually. So really all we got to do is, I'm taking a high path here just because there's more good stuff here. Anything useful here? I guess not. Yeah, there was something useful, but I already took it, so no big deal. Let's see, I just gotta make jumps here. And now we got the dagger, and the dagger is actually going to be a useful projectile weapon. So that's actually something we're going to need to do in order to beat the boss. So let's just make our way across here. And fortunately this first island is pretty basic. Later on we are going to have to use a lot of different abilities and a lot of different things in order to just get through everything. And this is going to be a 100% run, so I mean, I'm going to try and show off everything, and I mean everything, because there actually is a lot going on in this game. And now that that's done with, I'll just show off the dagger. It's a good projectile weapon, and whenever you see a door like this, that means there's a boss there. So I'll just go ahead and fight this thing. And yeah, what we're dealing with is just a tree. And fortunately, he's not too hard, and he at least is one of those bosses that actually gets easier the more you hit him. Whereas that's actually usually the opposite case with with most bosses. And unfortunately, the daggers themselves don't really do that much damage. But I mean, that's just something we need to do in order to wear this guy down. And yeah, it is a little bit easier to hit him once you do end up taking out some health, and then whenever he lowers like that, that means you're out damaging him. So just something to know. And I am playing this a little bit safer just because, unfortunately you do start off really weak and, I just don't feel like getting killed. But fortunately we were able to defeat him, so let's just go ahead and take this. And we got us the light stone. And after every stage you are going to get a voiceover from Tina, and you get to learn a little bit more about what's going through their heads as this is going. So yeah, you end up getting this. And then of course, since they are married, so that's just how that works. So now it turns out that Hia is our next target. So at least you get to learn a little bit more about what's going on. But with that said, I'm going to go ahead and save it and then call the video here. So I will see you next time for the next island. See you then.